Warning, you are about to hear a discussion that may make you a little bit uncomfortable or a lot uncomfortable. It will be raw, perhaps real, but it's today's reality about the landscape surrounding the sex trade and survivors of sexual exploitation in America, escalating and becoming, I think, normalized, but not on Janet Jensen's watch because she truly is a warrior. Crimes against women are far more common than people recognize or care to recognize. Most go unreported or underreported, and you cannot be in a room or you cannot be in any type of group or walk down a street without being in the presence, we know, of someone who has been impacted, scarred by sexual violence in their lifetime. Janet Jensen is the founder and CEO of the Jensen Project and has spent the last 40 years dedicating her time, her life, her resources, creating pathways for survivors of sexual violence to have healing opportunities, holistic. We talk about that a lot here on The Warriors, and to prevent the occurrences from happening in the first place. Intervention, prevention, everyone. Janet's organization, the Jensen Project, works year round to identify and support nonprofits directly serving women and girls who have been affected by sexual violence. To date, the Jensen Project has distributed millions of dollars to organizations who offer direct services to survivors, and the funding helps maintain and grow these most important programs. And without these programs, survivors perhaps would return to this vicious cycle of re-exploitation and most likely to a life of violence. So today, Janet and I are going to discuss the new documentary, The Right Track. Janet, right? Over 2 years you've been working on this, in the making. And it's so exciting because the premiere, and the Warriors will be there, is at the DC Docs Film Festival on Friday, June 13th at the Regal Gallery Place in DC. And all information for Janet, the Jensen Project, and this most important documentary will be in the body of this video. The website is righttrackfilm.com and also the jensenproject.org. What an honor, Janet Jensen. Welcome to the Warriors.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate it.
Oh,
It
you
has
know
been
what?
a journey.
I don't, such a journey, such a journey. I want to jump right in. There's so much to discuss. What do you want to tell us about Janet Jensen? It can be anything you want.
I carry hope around in my pocket and I sprinkle it everywhere. I believe that you have to live in hope to make something happen. And that is truly why I do what I do. I believe that compassion and being driven to help someone not only helps that individual, it's helped me in many, many ways heal myself. And it is it's just driven into me that once you've had total control taken over for you and you are not be able to respond and you're abused sexually, it does maim you. It does something to you that changes you for all your life. And if there's any way that I can help a survivor of sex trafficking regain that power of her own mind and self and body, then that's why I'm in it.
Wow. That's what we want to hear, Janet, from, that is a beautiful answer. Hope and empowerment, and giving, why don't you lay out for us, what would you like to talk about some of the landscapes surrounding all of this exploitation today in 2025?
For me, the scariest piece is they're trying to legalize prostitution across the United States. You legalize prostitution, and there are folks that don't believe the way I believe, but bottom line, it is so interwoven into sex trafficking that I always do this when I talk, because it's so woven in that many individuals don't realize they've been trafficked. They think they have been prostituted. Many prostitutes don't understand that they've been trafficked. And some is through legal, quote unquote, in Nevada, and some is from illegal. And that all ends up the same. Unfortunately, most women are brutalized. 92% of the individuals come out with uh, working injuries. 92%. How many people would take a job when you know darn well that you're going to be scarred in some way, shape, or form at 92%. People just don't take those jobs. They do it out of poverty. They do it out of desperation. They do it because that's all they've known. They have been scooted in at a very young age. And so brainwashed, thinking that this is the way life's supposed to be. It's just one of those things that I believe if prostitution runs across the United States, the equality for women goes down significantly. Some people say my body, my choice. I say my body, his choice. And that's my belief. And there's no getting around the facts. You can build a story of how you have power if you have a body and you can sell and you can perform to make money. I would also state that many of those folks don't realize what's going on until they get out and are away from the trauma. Fortunately for me, I've never been prostituted, nor have I been trafficked, but I have been abused as a child. I was beaten and raped, and I've been shot by a husband in the face, neck, and shoulder. So I understand violence against women. I have a very strong belief that it's I'm just by grace, I have not had to go through what they've gone through, because the part of it that's scary is those that have been abused as a child oftentimes end up in the work. The average age of trafficking is, so with the data we have, is somewhere between 11 and 12 or 11 and 14. The stats are so different. People do not, we don't know because people don't talk about this. This is why I'm on here, because you're putting light on it. They're just guessing at the stats. And you said something that really is at home for me. You do not walk into a grocery store and walk out without running into somebody that's either the perpetrator, the prey, or the already preyed upon and living a life just getting by. And if people would really realize that, it doesn't matter. Yes, the lower economic individuals and Black and Brown, Indigenous are higher, but it happens in every level. And we are all the same, no matter what economic level, it all feels the same. And so when we realize that we're all one, you can't walk away. Once you see this, once you really see it, you cannot walk away from it. You can't forget it. I think it happened to you.
Yeah. You said a mouthful, Janet. The public, I know all of this is dark and ugly. We get that. We know this. But I really feel like I'm here in New York City. It's really become so normalized. And that is my greatest fear. All of this talk and exploitation and headlines. And, right now everybody's focused on, the Diddy story here in New York. And I keep asking when I do these interviews, what about all the women and girls we never hear about? Who's showing up for them at the courthouses? Who's standing in Times Square with a sign for them? Where's the media to cover those stories? Right. And of course, they have no answers for me. The public doesn't understand. They say to me a lot, Janet, oh, well, that would never happen to me. My child would never do that. I'd run away. They do not understand. You mentioned brainwashing. This is complete psychological brainwashing, manipulation and control. They're running to nowhere. They have nowhere to go. They don't even know they're trafficked. They think, and you pointed this out, they think this is their life or that's all they're worth, right? And most we know are also victims as children that are in this sex trade of some sort of abuse. So we have a lot of work to do as a society about this. But I have to ask you, Janet, you've been through a lot. So you mentioned some things I wouldn't mention because it's your story to tell, whatever you choose to tell about yourself. How are you able to talk about it when I know women and some men that could never talk about it again? Is it just, as you pointed out, because you can do something and you're driven? Because I know some people, they want to forget about it. They will never discuss it. They can't heal because they just can't ever get out of what happened to them. How are you able to be so strong, and how do you take care of yourself?
Well, that's ever changing.
Loaded questions, I
Uh,
know.
Very loaded. Resilience.
Mm,
I mentioned it by helping other people. It really does
yes,
give you the oxytocin. And I really believe in hope. And I really believe that if you just change one person's life,
yes.
it's like you throwing a rock into the lake. The ripples go, and even when you don't see the ripples anymore, it still is moving that water in that way. So I made my mind up when I've had a foundation since I'm 40. So everybody will just have to figure out my age.
I don't know, but I was going to
It's
say but you're 30. How is that? How
Thank
is
you.
this?
Thank
How
you.
is that?
Uh, I did help kids go to college.
Mhm.
Actually, my first real foundation was after I was raped. I went out and spoke, and that was some 40 years ago. And if you didn't think that was interesting, uh, I do know that the individual director of the right track,
Mhm.
Shireen, I think you've had a conversation with her, she actually believed that when she took this on, she had believed that it's okay that I don't like to call it sex work, but we'll call it that today, that
Okay.
sex was work and work was sex. And just by her being around the individuals, hearing the story, hearing the facts, hearing the percentages, hearing what people have to go through and what they don't get to go through because of this, because their life has changed. They don't have the ability. I mean, we're talking brain injuries, we're talking not being able to have a bowel function, we're talking shot, stabbed, things that normal, like you said, it would never happen. Hey, I never thought I'd be raped at 4:30 in the afternoon while jogging. I left work early because I was a really young kid that got a accounting project, and the older gentleman who I really respect to this day, he never thought I'd get it done, and I got it done in 4 days instead of 7. And I said, I'm leaving, check it, and if it's okay. He was shocked. He said, you can leave. And I went home early that day. Normally, I was at the office at 7 and I didn't leave until after 6. I got out my door and I was walking and running down the aisle, the little kitchen alley, and I saw 4:30. I ran out. It's the middle of the day on this little teeny defunct golf course. Did I ever think it was going to happen to me? Heck no. And as a child, I had a brother that was very ill with asthma, and my mom was literally across the street with one doctor taking care of him, and I had hurt my back, and I went into an orthopedic surgeon's. Did I ever think that was going to happen? No. Did I ever think that I would have a husband that would shoot me? All of those things have happened to me, and I'm standing, and I have had family, friends, financial help. And I don't know what my parents installed in me. If they installed, if mom boiled rubber boots, you ate them. And the other comment was, if you get up in the morning, you pick yourself up by the bootstraps, put them on, and you go. And that, I'm not going to tell you, I haven't had some down moments. That's why I'm in this. I mean, I look at these women, and there are some really powerful folks that speak and do advocacy work that
Yeah.
give me, I mean, even just talking to you, I get the chills because I know what it was for me. I know what it felt like. I mean, when somebody takes complete control over you and you have
Yeah.
nothing to do but either fight or flight. And I can tell you, I did both. I froze with the doctor. I fought till the guy told me if I didn't shut up, he'd kill me. And if you saw how much he beat me, it looked like I was left for dead. And it's interesting. Uh, there's People don't think it could happen to them, and that's just the problem. And even if you don't think it could happen to them, don't you really think you ought to think of society as a whole?
Yeah.
That women don't talk about this. You are right that there's so many women that now many people come around and they've worked for me or I've met them, and then over time they'll say, I want to tell you a story. I haven't told anybody else. I have somebody that works for me in my home who was 44 years old when she finally told me that she had somebody rape her. It took time. And I want to have this open up so the women can speak,
Yes.
so the advocates can speak, and so that people start looking that it's not It's everyone that it could happen to. And, by the grace of God go you if it doesn't happen. Crazy, but that's really what I believe. I think if they open your eyes up just once to see, especially, it's easier, fortunately and unfortunately, I got to be very careful here that it's easier to get people interested in children. But the funny thing about prostitution and trafficking is it starts with kiddos. I have a really crazy story that it's secondhand. A girlfriend of mine had a very good friend. They couple both did very well, but could not have children. They adopted a beautiful blonde little girl, and she was sneaking out. They adopted her at 9. They didn't know what was going on, so they finally, they grounded her. They did all this. Then they followed her, figured out that she was going over to some guy's sugar daddy, or 9 years old. He was selling her. And then the detective said, I want you to come here to the backyard. And they had a big backyard with some really grassy old grass in the back. And he took them around, and there's this place, and then pulled a shovel, and they dug it up. And there was $100,000 plus that she had hidden in their backyard. They found that 2 years. They hired her, sorry, they adopted her at 9, and at 11, they finally figured that out. And they put her in a military school to get through because there was no other way. That's the other thing is the foster system. There is a line. I could ramble on to the point where some of what I say, people are going, she says too much, you can't follow it. The reality of how many different ways you can get into this and you don't even know it. You can be dating a fellow, and he makes you feel like you're the queen, and all of a sudden you need money. Well, it's not like there's a lot of guys out there selling their body. It's not that that doesn't happen, but it's so many little ways that unfortunately I was not able to have children. But I will say, if I did and they were young, I don't know if I'd be a helicopter mom. I would probably have them, the bubble mom, and they would not be able to communicate with anybody but me.
But first of all, Janet, thank you for sharing all of that. I'm still horrified about the 9-year-old, but we have heard stories like this. My children are all in their 30s. I think if I was a parent today, Janet, I don't know how I'd do it, but I'd be homeschooling. There'd be no sleepovers. There'd be, it would be a tightly controlled uh, environment, I think, because of what we do, right? What we know. I think the most frightening part, though, is, for instance, here in New York, I work with law enforcement, and they tell me the cartels, now I'm really digressing for a second here, so just bear with me, are working all over the country in the middle and the high schools. And they're getting American
Mhm.
kids because they give them money. Money talks, crime walks. I know it sounds corny, but that's the truth. American kids, the boys are trafficking in middle and high schools, their peers, girls. These are American
Yes.
kids. And also they're trafficking, they're dealing the drugs because they're getting paid money. So we have got, this systemic, I like to say it's a wheel, Janet, with like all these different spokes, because there's so many issues here around this exploitation, and they're all making this wheel go around. But we have to talk about all of them. I like your saying, if you help one person at a time, that's our goal at the Warriors. It's too big. We focus every day, one person, one group, one child, one something for success every day. We've done our jobs, and then we keep moving forward. I can't think of it any other way. I'm very concerned, though, that the ages are getting, Janet, so young, younger and younger and younger. You just pointed out a 9-year-old. We used to say 14, 15. That was 5 years ago. Now we're saying in New York 9, 10, 11. And that's so frightening to me. What do you think? What do you think? I'm very serious when I say this. Why do you think this subject is so hard for people to wrap their minds around? Because when it comes to my children, even though they're grown adults, I'm guaranteed, like, I know women have to work or single parent household. You brought up foster care. Janet, I don't know one person, and these are people that don't even know each other. Every one of them has reported to me. They could be my age now. Going through foster care, they were re traumatized, re trafficked. I don't know. They all told me the same story. So that's like a whole thing that has to be totally uh, blown up. I shouldn't use those words, but reinvent it, that part of the wheel. So we have all this, and we do have more organizations. We have more talk about it. Why is it so hard for people to wrap their minds? Why is it so hard when I'm here in New York? When we have a great group fly in, Exodus Cry from California, to help with a rally in Times Square. And I'm the only one in New York that shows up to help them with the rally in Times Square. Why is it so hard to get everybody on board? Another loaded question, I know, but
Uh, very well. When I go out to dinner, I tell them I could be a really good dinner date or a really bad dinner date. But if you're going to want me to talk about something, I can talk business. But quite frankly, the business that I'm in is in human trafficking. And so I just make people uncomfortable. And if they don't want to, then they don't want to stick around and hear the stories, then it's on them. And I don't know what else to do other than that.
yes.
I don't know. That's why the documentary. We at the Jensen Project, we do fund organizations, and then we have a program called Grant Tank. Grant Tank is very much like Shark Tank. The organizations fill an app out, and we have programs for housing, economic empowerment, data, and policy.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting in many ways, but one of the things that I like most is we do site visits on everything. And one day in Reno, we were at a drop-in center, and it's the in-person meetings are 3 to 4 hours long. So the executive director's flipping through her phone trying to figure out, I'm in a drop-in center, what are the problems? And I just said, hey, is there anything else we can do for you? And she said, hey, yeah, buy a brothel. And
Interesting.
I never thought I would buy a brothel or be
Yeah.
asked to buy one. And they never thought I would do it. But by the time I got to the airport, I had already called and talked to one of my financial folks that I said, just do it and don't let anybody know who's got it or who's attempting to buy it. And, when I saw it, yes, it is to take it out. It's one nick out of the armor for them. Those folks that want to say it's legal and that it's better if it's legalized and it's very healthy and caring. And the other was, in my mind, I immediately thought, there could be a story. And it is a Dennis, we purchased the Love Ranch, which is Dennis Hoff's. He had 6 of them. This happened to be the one that his madam wasn't on the license. So it was like they had to get rid of it and shut it down like immediately. I bought it 3 years ago, April 2nd of this last year. And I didn't go see it until August. You don't want to go into Death Valley in August either. That's first of all. Electricity was bad. There's no air conditioning. It was crazy. And there were things left in there that things that, they tie the women up in. There was a list of all the different positions. There's a gated place that you could only imagine you could watch, but what was inside. Uh, I have to say, I never dreamed that what I saw was what I was going to see. And I was so prepared for the most awfulest thing because I'd been in the work for several years then and I'd heard the stories. But it was just incredible. If you see the documentary, you'll see some of it. You can see the hands I'm doing my hands on this thing, pushing up on the wall. You can see the handprints
Really?
on the walls, and you can see some of the equipment that's left. You can hear the stories of the survivors, some that have been through the prostitution system in a brothel, quote legal brothels and non-legal, uh, trafficked, all the same. It's the same story. It's just torture. It is brainwashing. It is minimizing an individual. It's treating a human sometimes worse than their own, somebody would treat a dog. And I have heard stories that, the one thing that's asked of me, and I still don't know how to tell this to people, is how do you hear these things and does it not affect you? They all affect me. There's no way they can't. They are compartmentalized to some degree, but every once in a while, there's one that I know I'll go home and nightmare about, or I can't get off my mind. So I have to go talk to somebody too. So if I could have somehow let people hear a couple of those stories so that they night at least daymare, can't believe it happens, and or nightmare about it, that's what I want to do. And I know that sounds cuckoo, but that's really what I want to do. And
What?
so the stories that you'll see in the documentary, which are very telling, there's some real brutal stories of little girls that are taken away, and all of them were young kiddos. It wasn't like they started as an adult, and it's not like when you're 17 and you turn 18, then all of a sudden, oh, I'm 18, I can do what I want. I remember myself at 18. You think you know the world,
Yes.
and you have no, your footing. So think about someone that doesn't know anything, that's been hidden, beaten, doesn't have any self-esteem. So I want people to understand that. I want them to feel uncomfortable. I want them to feel what I feel. And I want them to think, when you see an older man with a little girl and they just don't look like they're having a father-daughter thing, I want them to think, is that? And I want them to get the creeps, and I want them to get the chills. Because if we don't start making normalization of telling the rotten part of it, the other side, if you want to call it a side, is winning by what you called normalizing. If we're going to normalize this, our chances as women of being thought of in, I don't even know what word I would put on it, equal. I mean,
Yeah.
equality, it's just be thought of as a person. If we flipped it and it was all men, I'd still feel the same way. It's just that's not it. And women are, unfortunately, physically weaker. And so, hence, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, Janet, I was, growing up in Jersey, always interested in news and current events and really watched the women's movement. I don't remember if I was in middle or high school, but I just remember thinking these powerful images. Of course, we only had three news channels in those days, of seeing all the women marching in New York, every color, every religion, every, wealthy women, not wealthy women. I maintain today that women are in a worse position than ever, that we have to even discuss, the legalization of prostitution. And that men I talk to will, or interview sometimes, or they'll say, oh, but it's the oldest profession, ha ha ha. And I'll always say, no, the oldest oppression. And then I give them their tutorial and they back off. But I really think, Janet, that women today are, this is becoming, this, normalized. The public is becoming habituated. We have to break those chains. And that is why the film, people are visual. So having a film, a documentary, people can actually see, I think is so exciting. That piece of visual, again, I'm going to say a piece of art, actually, I'm going to say, because we don't have a lot of this with this subject matter, Janet. We just don't have it. You're a trailblazer. There are a couple of documentaries over the years. There's nothing else. We need a streaming series about this. We need ongoing about all of this. But we also need, you mentioned something. If somebody sees something they're uncomfortable with, maybe an older man with a child, or, a young girl, what do you want them to do? Because people are always like, I think I saw something, but I didn't know what to do. And I'm always giving them take actions. We always need to give people take actions. What do you want them to do?
Well, I've followed them out and taken a picture of the license plate and send it in. Not all the time, because
I've done that.
I'm a vigilant. Uh, I do believe you see something, say something.
Yes.
And if you know how we also, the year that I bought the brothel, I also bought a home because we give to homes, and I didn't want to not have a home and have somebody help run it with and not understand what that was like. And I named that home Starla. And that Starla came from one of the reasons that I really flipped because so I've been shoot 20 some years in violence against women. Actually, no, 40 some years of violence against women. It takes moments. And I was at a gas station. It was raining, it was blowing, it was cold. And I remember filling up my gas tank and looking at the um, lady who was getting beaten, this young girl. I swear she couldn't have been more than 16, a lot of makeup. And I was watching this, and you know, when the gas pump, the click goes like this, and it shocked me. And I sat there and I froze. And then then they're following him out, and he throws her in the car. He starts screaming, "Starla, Starla, I'm gonna kill you!" And I swear that was the big one. And I had been looking at trafficking for the better part of 11 years, but I was told if I get into this, I will be maimed, uh, shot, murdered, kidnapped, that I'll go away. And so I avoided it. Well, after that, that was the stimulus for that. And I'll never forget the Starla thing. So even though I had been through what I had been through, I had no idea. And I will admit this, when I was still after I had been raped, we have an area in Dallas, in the Harry Hines area, and that's the track. And I'll never forget, and I can still see this young lady. She had a shimmery little short sequins silver dress or skirt on and a little top. I don't remember the color of that. I just remember her bleach blonde hair and her makeup and the heels like I could never wear. And I was thinking to myself, why? Why would you want to do that? So I was one of these individuals, and I think all you need to do is have a little bit of heart, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of hope, and open it all up. And just for me, just give a little. I mean, time, treasure, talent,
Yes.
something. Because if we work together, and my name is Janet Jury Jensen. My parents have passed, so I was thinking about making it Janet Collaboration Jensen. I don't know if my mom roll over in her grave, but I really do believe you need to collaborate. And I
Yes.
also think as you're collaborating, you need to collaborate around the right paths I was going to say passages of what could be done, how you can work together. And even with inside this field, sometimes working together, as you said, like in New York, to get people finally talking with one another and really driving home the possibility, if we just put people together in certain ways, that we take them out of silos, that we could fulfill a lot more. And by you having the show and opening it up and letting people speak about all the issues, it's I think you have to do it. And I have to say, I never thought that I would talk about policy. I had one experience in policy after my rape, and I swore that I would never go down and work with anybody in politics again. And at this point, I rally around all of the women and advocates and men who go up on the hill in our federal judicial system and try to change. And I say try. And if I say try, I'm going to say, here's a pen. I say, try to pick it up. Either you do or you don't.
Right.
And they are trying, they're picking it up and they're going for it. And if we can't change some of those folks' minds, I don't understand that one, Lynn, but I will save that for another time to
That's an
talk about.
well, that's another program, but it's twofold. Listen, our hashtag at the Warriors, community creates change. Because Janet, it has to start in the home, the community, boots on the ground. Like that's where the work gets done. I went last Tuesday with two other warriors. We handled in one day 41 offices. on the Hill. And it was like, they didn't know what to make of us. We've done a lot of this before, just to remind them that, Kids Online Safety Act has been reintroduced, because any little piece of legislation that can help with any of this is better than nothing. And I thought, Janet, when I started all this very naively about 6 years ago, I thought, who wouldn't be on board for, safety, child safety, digital safety, safety in the streets. I really thought that naively, that everybody, bipartisan, truly, because the work is bipartisan, everybody would get on board. It's not that way, but we have to chip away. We have to remind them in Washington or at our local or state, levels. We are here. We're constituents. You work for us. I actually say that to people very nicely, but you have to answer to us. Or why can't you vote for this? Or why aren't you interested in this? But I have to say, last week we had a very good, I will reveal to you, 41 offices, 39 were really terrific. They knew about it. They're aware of it. Guess who the two offices that were not very good? New York. My two people were horrible about it. Didn't want to see us, didn't have time for us, whatever. Everybody else was great. So I really do think, and certainly with what you're doing, Janet, our great friends at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, we've got Rights for Girls, Cat W. It's opening up. And the film is opening up. So it's opening up, the premiere in DC. What's the plan for the rest of the tour of the film? Because this film has to go across the United States. It has to be shown. I don't care if it's colleges, other film festivals, movie houses. What is your plan for this?
I have to be honest, we don't have a total plan yet.
Okay, that's okay.
We have film festivals that we are in
Okay.
through the next year. From here on
Okay,
out, there's
good.
a year's worth. There will be colleges that
Yeah.
we are planning. The partners that we have, we've given them the availability to have that show them in their community. We will have a large premiere in Dallas Fort Worth area, because that is where we are centrally located and our home is at. Plan on having a bash with that. And I didn't know the interest. I hoped that this would create a want and a need to feel, because how do you tell the stories? I can tell about me and why I do it and why I have such a guttural feeling inside that I need to help at least one individual.
Right.
If we get this, and I don't think it's if, when we figure out what we're going to do, I will let you know. And I'll let you know the schedule. And we're just putting it together. The film just
No, I know.
literally
But
was in the can.
but I'm so
And
excited about it, Janet, that I want everybody to see it, because again, I mean, that's my background, coming from that production world, is like, people are visual. People will understand. People, to throw in something else, when that movie Sound of Freedom came out, people actually, I can't tell you how many contacted me to say, oh, you were right, Lynn, there is sex trafficking. This is in the middle of New York City. I'm like, yeah, there is sex trafficking, but this documentary is done with your voice, with survivors, we're not going to give away the plot. I can't believe you bought a brothel. Wow, that's powerful. That's a powerful.
it's also a little crazy, but you have to think
Yeah,
out of
but
the box
crazy's
to get
good,
people's
Janet. Crazy's
attention.
good. Crazy. I'm telling you, crazy's good. Thinking. I don't like saying this, but like, thinking out of the box, because is good. That's what we have to do with sex trafficking, with all of this exploitation. It can't just be, it's bad. We know this already. It can't just be, we're fighting for policy all the time. We'll fight for the policy. We're doing that. We have to show people different ways. I'm very convinced. Nothing has really worked, right? Think about this. Around this, things are escalating. People are becoming habituated. It's normalized. I'll share with you, because I work with a lot of women that are here on the streets in New York, and they feed me information. And you know what's very sad, Janet? That they told me recently, a couple of women, that we've got girls in very vulnerable neighborhoods, 12, 13, 14, saying, I just can't wait. I'm going to be a sex worker. I just love it. I'm going to own my body. I'm going to this, that, and the other thing. This is how our young girls are thinking. We have to break that cycle. We have to offer them something better, right? They don't have parents looking for them. They don't think they have any kind of future. And then we have another group of girls in New York, Janet, that are doing the Drizzle. Did you ever hear of this one? Because I didn't know what this was either. There's this new movement called the Drizzle. Did you ever hear about this?
No, ma'am. So
Well,
tell me something. Tell me the drizzle.
so I'm like, they're like, Lynn, you don't know about the Drizzle. I'm like, no, that's why I depend on you, because the Drizzle is, we've got these guys wearing designer clothes, older, right? Usually in their 20s and up, sports cars, flashing around a lot of money. And they'll cozy on up to a 12, 13, 14-year-old. And they'll tell this very vulnerable girl, you're beautiful. I like you. You want to be my girl? And of course oh yes, they're impressed, right? And okay, you want to be my girl? And I'm cutting out some parts because it's a family show. You want to be my girl? You got to keep me in this style. You got to buy me the Gucci belts and all the Dior clothing and the Louis Vuitton. So you got to do it. You love me. You got to go out and do this for me. And the girls are doing it, and they call it the Drizzle. The guys are drizzling some, fancy stuff. Because I'm even like, why is that called the Drizzle? I'm still pounding away at this one. They're like, they call it the Drizzle, and the girls are doing it. So they're not getting anything for themselves, except they think this guy riding around, and they're buying him all this fancy stuff. They think they're the girlfriend, and they're babies when you see them, right? Of course, they think they know everything, but I'm saying 12, 13, 14. So we can't have that. This is unacceptable in America. I mean, all over, but the world, but in America, I never thought we'd have to talk about these things, Janet, to this, like this is what we have to really talk about and fight against. It should be everybody rallying together out in the streets. I still want to see protests in Times Square. It's unacceptable. We do. And the flip side is we have to have, though, housing for people. We have to have, job training, education. So that's like a whole nother thing. We have to have all the pieces in place. But it's happening. And it's happening in large part, Janet, because you truly are, with the Jensen Project, doing such wonderful things. Nobody else is doing what you're doing. So you really are a trailblazer and a leader in this movement. Finish this up. What do you want with the movie, the documentary? What do you want to accomplish with this?
I would love to have a movement of, I'm going to say the word normal, average individuals, and that's not a negative, just people that are in everyday life trying to make it happen. Be aware that this is lurking everywhere, and it is being normalized. You can see it on television. I have a Time magazine that, what is it, Housewives, whatever the Housewives, remember the TV show where they had the Housewives 20 years ago? Anyway, I still have that. I should brought it. My
You
Time
mean like
magazine.
the Housewives? It started out. You mean the whole franchise, the Housewives of California? It started with them.
No.
Oh, Desperate Housewives. Oh,
yes.
yes. I watched the whole series years ago. Desperate Housewives. Yes.
And you probably loved it, but I still have the Time magazine, and that's from 20 years, and I've kept it at my office. And I'm like, I thought it was out of hand then, and look at us now. So, how do you get the word out? I think film, and it is an art piece. I'm very proud of it. And I am not the executive producer. Actually, I am just the organization that provided the ability to use the brothel. And I will say that it was a privilege to work alongside the folks to make the film. They've really told the story. And if this story could be, we can eke it out to our partners, film festivals, and then hopefully stream it. I think it might open people's eyes up that it is everywhere in everybody's backyard. And if you think it isn't, I will tell you that then you just you're not thinking. But next time, I tell you what, I'll bring my Time magazine and show you when I thought it was out of control, which was some 20 years ago.
Well, I have news for you, Janet Jensen. I actually binged on Desperate Housewives in my own education. I wanted to go back and look at things. Of course, I watch, in the middle of the night because we're busy during the day. And I fairly recently watched I think it was 7 years of Desperate Housewives. And I couldn't believe actually what I saw in that series. Now, like looking at it, when at the time, I wasn't, I didn't really know. I didn't pay attention. I wasn't really, it was on Sunday nights, but I'm telling you, I was almost shocked at a lot of things.
It
Old TV series I'll go back and look at as actually like an education, and shocked at things I see that it started a long time ago. A lot of this, laying the groundwork for a lot of this. Um, Give us some final words. What do you want to leave everybody with?
Come see the film on
Yeah.
June 13th
Right here
in Washington, D.C. Thank you. And thank
Well,
you for your time. I appreciate you being a
oh
warrior.
no, you're the biggest warrior. Your boots on the ground. You're making things happen. We truly, I want to repeat, I'm tired of people. It's bad. It's horrible. We have to end things. No, we have to take action and have solutions. And you also pointed out something I liked earlier, Janet. Everybody can do something. And I really believe in 2025, everybody must. And even if that's sharing this interview, if that's all you can do on your platforms, leveraging the internet for good with this interview, that's good enough. If you go to the dollar store and buy some socks, for your local community organization, safe house, that's good enough. Everybody must address this. And we must somehow, I don't know how this one will happen, Janet. We have to empower our girls and young women. This is a big one because that's a societal type of thing. We have to have something to offer them and give them. But I feel good about it. I feel with you on the scene, there's a lot of hope. The film, absolutely, I can't wait to see it. The right track. There's nothing more powerful than survivors that resonates with an audience sharing what happened to them. I can't do my job without them, without their advice, without them teaching me things, without sharing their stories. I couldn't do it. And so I'm just in awe of all of you, Janet. Seriously, and you're bravely sharing what happened to you, and it's empowered you to do all this good work. So I want to thank you. Oh, Janet, I'm getting a little choked up now. For your
Don't do
dedication.
that. Please,
Let me catch my
just
breath. Let me catch my breath for a second. Just for your sorry.
don't
I
be
don't,
sorry. Be
Janet.
happy.
I don't cry, Janet. So it's very very strange. I really don't cry. So I want to thank you for your dedication and commitment to empowering organizations and individuals, and to free everybody from this oppression and to educate about it and to talk about it. And the Jensen Project, absolutely terrific. And the right track. I'm going to have all the information, the websites, how to buy tickets, in the body of the video so everybody can take time and read about it, let it absorb. Because I think with this issue, it's not something you can just, you have to kind of absorb it, right, Janet? You have to kind of let it sink in, maybe go back and read about it. And that's what I want people to do, to take their time, no rush, but definitely come to DC if you're in the area, and we'll stay tuned. Janet will fill us in where else. But you know what, Janet? The film's going to be, it's going to be in New York. It has to be. It has to be because, this is a place for it. And we have a lot of warriors here. So we'll do whatever we can do in our power to help you with anything. And I'm looking forward. I'm going to see you on June 13th. I'm very excited in DC, and we're going to continue. And I want to say, Janet Jensen, thank you so much. You truly are a warrior.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Janet.